If you're listening to this, I want you to picture a global economic mystery, like a massive one.
Right.
You see these developing countries, right? They hit this brief, just shining moment of explosive growth.
Oh, yeah. Everyone's celebrating the GDP is skyrocketing.
Exactly. But then, almost out of nowhere, they just slam into a brick wall of stagnation.
It's like the engine just cuts out.
Yeah, and usually, we blame the obvious stuff. We say, oh, it's capital flight.
Or a lack of new technology.
Right. But the real reason, it is so much more terrifying because it is completely invisible.
It's hidden right there in plain sight.
It's this missing engine hidden in the most basic blueprint of how a society is actually structured.
And that's what we're tearing apart today.
Welcome to today's deep dive. Our mission right now is to uncover the secret logic of the global economy.
And we actually have the data to do it.
We do. We are using this massive, incredibly granular 2011 microdata study.
Yeah, from researchers at the World Bank and Harvard University.
And they looked at India's unorganized business sector. Millions of these tiny microscopic data points.
Just to reveal this one massive macroscopic truth.
So, to give you an overview, we are looking at millions of tiny businesses.
Right, the unorganized sector, which, by the way, makes up over 99% of manufacturing establishments there.
Which is just a crazy number, over 99%.
That's huge. We're looking at a society undergoing rapid change to understand how capital, power, and, well, networks actually function on the ground.
So, directly to you listening right now, if you've ever wondered why throwing money at a problem just straight up doesn't fix it,
or why the new AI economy feels strangely like some medieval guild system.
Yeah, you really need to hear this, because this is going to be a total slap in the face to traditional economics.
It really is. So let's start with this comforting assumption we all seem to hold.
Oh, the idea that growth fixes everything.
Exactly. We assume that as a country modernizes and, its GDP skyrockets, economic equality will just naturally follow.
Especially for women. Like, a rising tide lifts all boats.
Right, but this data, it brutally slaps that assumption down.
Just completely destroys it.
Economic growth does not automatically generate a level playing field.
So look at India in the early 2000s. I mean, it was a software and services powerhouse.
A totally booming GDP.
Right. Yet, the rate of female entrepreneurship is entirely disconnected from this whole national success story.
It's just sitting flat. Way below where it should be for a country at that stage of development.
So the question is why? Why is half the population's economic power just locked inside this black box?
Well, to understand that, you have to understand the unorganized sector itself.
Right, because that's not exactly a term we throw around every day.
No, it's not. Basically, we're talking about businesses with fewer than 10 workers if they use electricity.
Or fewer than 20 without electricity, right?
Exactly. And this is where the real economy lives for most people.
It's entirely disconnected from those glittering IT hubs you see on the news.
Completely. It's a totally different world.
Okay, let's unpack this for a second. It's kind of like, it's like upgrading a computer's monitor to 4K, right?
Okay, I see where you're going.
But you're leaving this dusty 1990s hard drive inside.
Yeah, the outside looks incredibly modern.
But the internal operating system is still actively restricting half the system's memory.
That's a perfect way to put it.
So if modernization isn't naturally fixing this, what do the actual numbers look like on the ground?
I'm warning you, the reality is far worse than you probably think.
Because we're talking about a country universally celebrated as this next great economic miracle.
Right.
But the foundational numbers for female participation are just shockingly abysmal.
I mean, let's look at the exact data points from the study.
Yeah, hit me with them.
In India's massive unorganized manufacturing sector, women account for a mere 21% of new entrepreneurs.
Just 21%. That's barely 1 in 5.
But wait, it gets worse. In the services sector,
which is supposed to be the new modern economy, right?
Right. In services, it drops to a microscopic 11%.
11%. That is insane.
It's not just a matter of social justice either. I mean, it's a brutal macroeconomic failure.
Yeah, the nation is actively driving with the parking brake on.
Exactly. And through massive census data, the researchers realized there's an invisible hand keeping these numbers suppressed.
And let me guess, it has absolutely nothing to do with personal ambition.
Nothing at all.
Yeah.
Women didn't just suddenly lack the drive to start businesses.
So imagine running a business, right, and you systematically refuse to use like 80 to 89% of your absolute best assets.
You would go bankrupt so fast.
You'd be done in a week. Yet this is exactly how the global economy operates.
It is. So put yourself in the shoes of a policymaker. If you wanted to fix this, what would you do?
I mean, my first instinct, and probably the instinct of anyone listening, is you build more schools.
Right, education.
Or you hand out microloans, give people money to start things.
Yeah, well, your first instinct is entirely wrong.
Wow. Okay, slap in the face number 2.
The Harvard and World Bank data proves that this whole resource-driven approach is an illusion.
So education and money don't work.
Not as the primary driver, no. It's actually the study's most anti-common sense finding.
Okay, so what is the defining factor then, if it's not a woman's education level?
And it's not the general availability of loans.
Right.
It is simply this, are there already other female business owners on her street and in her specific industry?
Wait, really? Just the presence of other women?
Yes. The researchers identified this thing called the local incumbent industrial structure. That is the ultimate gatekeeper.
Okay, let me translate that from academic speak. Your success isn't determined by your degree.
No.
It's determined by the existing network in your neighborhood.
Exactly. What's fascinating here is that entrepreneurship, especially in this sector, does not happen in a vacuum.
It requires an ecosystem.
Right. Without an existing local female network, individual brilliance or education is effectively neutralized.
So you could be a genius with a master's degree and a fat loan, and you'd still fail if there's no network.
Pretty much, yeah. The local structure just crushes you.
That is wild. And to prove how powerful this local network is, all we have to do is look at a map of India.
Yeah, the geographical data is where this gets really interesting.
Because it reveals a geographic paradox that totally defies all traditional economic logic.
Think about it. You would assume that the capital city, the absolute epicenter of money, power, and progressive elites.
Right. New Delhi.
Yeah. You'd think it would be the best place for a woman to start a business.
It's where all the venture capital is.
But the data says the exact opposite.
Okay, let's lay out the geographic divide for the listeners.
Sure. So down in the southern states like Karnataka and Kerala,
Yeah.
the proportion of female business owners in manufacturing is staggering. We're talking up to 51 to 58%.
Over half.
Over half. But then you look at New Delhi, the political and economic heart of the country.
And the number collapses to what?
A pathetic 12%.
12%. That is a massive drop. Why is the absolute center of power a barren desert for female founders?
It all comes down to how history and deeply entrenched local networks write entirely different scripts for different regions.
So it's about the past, not the present wealth.
Exactly. In the South, historical networks of female commerce existed, and they just compounded over time.
Like a snowball effect.
Right. But in the capital, entrenched male-dominated power structures created this impenetrable wall.
Okay, so it's like planting a seed.
How do you mean?
Well, New Delhi is like this high-tech hydroponic farm, right? Tons of resources.
Oh, I see.
But the water is poisoned for certain seeds, whereas Karnataka is rough soil, but the local ecosystem actively nourishes the seed.
That's spot on. The environment dictates the outcome, not the resources.
But the surprises don't stop at geography, do they?
Not at all. If we look at what these women are actually manufacturing, it destroys every stereotype we have.
Seriously. If you're listening right now, close your eyes and picture a micro business run by a woman in a developing country.
You probably pictured a clothing store, right?
Or weaving. Maybe some light handicrafts.
Yeah. That assumption is completely shattered by the data.
These stats from the 2005 manufacturing data are just mind-bending. Let me read these.
Go for it.
In the chemical products industry, female ownership is a staggering 83%.
83%.
And in tobacco products, it's 72%.
Right.
Meanwhile, in machinery and equipment, it's barely 2%.
Which is just a massive disparity.
So what is going on here? Are women just naturally drawn to chemicals over machinery?
No, it's not about personal preference at all.
Okay.
This is the result of deep, rigid industrial network mechanisms.
Meaning what exactly?
Meaning these specific industries like rolling tobacco or making chemical matchsticks happen to be where female networks successfully established a foothold generations ago.
So because they started there way back when, they're stuck there now.
Exactly. Think about what this means for a second. Human potential is being aggressively pigeonholed by whatever historical accident allowed a network to form.
So you aren't choosing your passion.
Nope.
The local network is basically dictating your destiny.
It completely overrides individual choice.
That is kind of terrifying. But how exactly does this network dictate destiny?
It all comes down to a mathematical rule of survival. The researchers called it the incubation effect.
The incubation effect. Let's dig into that because starting a business is already brutal.
It's like walking through a desert. Most people die of thirst in the first few miles.
Yeah, but having just a few people walking ahead of you changes the survival math completely.
It really does. The researchers discovered this exact formula.
And this is crazy. Listen to this math. For every 10% increase in the existing number of female-owned businesses in a specific local industry,
Right, so a 10% bump in the network.
there is a guaranteed 0.2 to 0.3% bump in the rate of new female entrepreneurs entering the market.
Guaranteed. It's a mathematical certainty.
So explain this valley of death in business.
Well, female founders don't just spring out of nowhere. After stripping away all other noise, population differences, education, money, the data proves something huge.
Which is?
A new founder absolutely relies on a pre-existing same-gender network to survive those fragile early days.
So what does this all mean? It's like a coral reef, right?
A coral reef.
Yeah. Think about it. The first coral polyps have a terrible time attaching to a bare rock in the ocean.
Oh, because it's a harsh environment.
Right, they just get swept away. But once a small reef is established, new life can anchor to it instantly.
The network is the infrastructure.
Exactly. Without the reef, you die.
That's a great analogy. But how exactly do these female networks actually help each other on the ground?
Yeah, what's the day-to-day reality of this?
Well, this brings us to a 100-year-old economic theory. But it takes a very, very dark turn in the unorganized sector.
Usually networking is seen as this positive, expansive thing, right? You go to a mixer, you hand out business cards.
Right, expanding your horizons. But in this world, networking is actually a brutal, closed-loop survival mechanism.
And it essentially locks outsiders out.
Completely.
Yeah.
Have you ever heard of Marshallian agglomeration?
I think so. It's a classic economic idea, right? Like businesses clustering together.
Exactly. They cluster together to share labor and resources, like tech companies in Silicon Valley.
Right. Or car manufacturers in Detroit.
Yeah. But here, it operates strictly along gender lines.
Oh, wow. So women in the unorganized sector overwhelmingly hire other women.
Yes. But it's not just hiring. Furthermore, due to heavy societal norms, they often can only buy raw materials from other women.
Seriously.
And they can only sell their finished products to other women.
That creates a highly segregated, completely isolated economy.
It's an airtight loop, an input-output network, and a labor pool restricted entirely by gender.
Which is a massive double-edged sword when you think about it.
How so?
Well, if you are inside the loop, it is a self-reinforcing safety net. Everyone is buying from you and selling to you.
Right, you're protected.
But if that loop doesn't exist in your town, like, say you want to start a business in an industry where there are no women yet.
Attempting to enter the market is like fighting an army alone.
You face a dimensional strike, just an insurmountable barrier.
You can't get supplies, you can't get workers, you're done.
So, if the network is the only way to survive, how can the government help women who don't have a network?
The answer to that is shockingly physical.
Okay, so imagine a government creates this massive, specialized female entrepreneurship fund.
Like a huge pot of money just to give cash to women.
Exactly. Sounds like a great idea, right? The data shows this is practically useless compared to something totally mundane. Asphalt and water pipes.
Yeah, this is another massive slap in the face to traditional policy.
The public policy that stimulates female entrepreneurship the most isn't business subsidies.
No, it's the presence of paved roads and basic tap water.
Which sounds crazy. Why does a water tap beat a fat stack of cash?
It comes down to the cruel physics of traditional societal structures.
Explain that.
Terrible infrastructure locks women into what economists call time poverty.
Time poverty.
Yes. If a woman has to spend 5 hours a day fetching water and managing the household, she has zero time to run a business.
I mean, that makes total sense. Cash means nothing if you don't have the hours in the day to spend it.
Exactly. Furthermore, unpaved, muddy roads present massive physical and safety risks for women trying to travel to open new markets.
Here's where it gets really interesting. Infrastructure isn't just concrete or metal pipes.
It's the literal liberation of female time.
It gives them their day back.
Yes. But while good physical infrastructure frees women, there is another type of infrastructure that does the exact opposite.
Oh, you're talking about legal infrastructure.
Yeah, and it has a bizarrely backward effect on
This
them.
is the labor law paradox.
Yes, and it is a universal economic rule that strict, heavy-handed labor laws kill business vitality.
Right, if you make it impossible to fire someone, companies stop hiring. It stops people from starting companies.
But in India, the data reveals an absurd contradiction.
Let me guess. It's the exact opposite.
Yep. The regression analysis found that states with the most severe, strict labor laws actually have higher proportions of female entrepreneurs in the unorganized sector.
Wait, what? Stricter laws equal more female founders? How is that even possible?
Well, let's look at the mechanism impartially. When labor laws in the formal corporate sector become too rigid, the formal sector stops hiring.
They just freeze.
They freeze and they shrink. Millions of people are suddenly squeezed out of the official economy.
So they have nowhere to go.
Exactly. This creates a survival squeeze.
Ah, so these women aren't starting businesses because they're inspired innovators who want to disrupt the market.
No, they are being shoved into the unorganized and informal sector purely to feed their families.
It's not a boom of entrepreneurship. It's a desperate flood of survival micro-businesses.
It's people doing whatever it takes to not starve.
That is a really grim reality. But it's largely found in the manufacturing of physical goods, right?
Right. But what happens when we look at the gleaming modern services sector?
Oh boy. The knowledge economy.
The situation gets even colder.
Because we love to believe that the internet, tech, and the services economy are these great equalizers.
We think they'll finally erase all these old gender divides.
But the data proves the exact opposite, doesn't it? The new economy is building higher walls than the old one.
It really is.
Yeah.
Let's contrast manufacturing with the services sector, which, again, is supposed to be the future of the economy.
Right.
In the services sector, the incubation effect, the ability of a network to pull up new women, is only half as powerful as it is in manufacturing.
Only half. So the networks are weaker in the tech and services side.
Yes. And there's a devastating detail here.
What is it?
In the unorganized services sector, a woman's literacy rate and formal education suddenly become absolute prerequisites to entry.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. You can learn to roll tobacco through the network without knowing how to read.
Just by watching and learning from the other women.
Exactly. But you cannot participate in the knowledge economy without literacy.
You can't run a bookkeeping service or a telecom kiosk if you can't read.
No, you can't.
So technology and the knowledge economy aren't leveling the playing field at all.
Far from it.
They're erecting an invisible, brutal wall of entry that physical labor never required.
It's a much harsher filter.
Now, I know there are skeptics listening to all of this right now.
Always are.
And they're probably thinking, wait, is this just correlation? Maybe women only start businesses in areas that are already destined to get rich anyway.
Right, the old chicken or egg debate.
Yeah.
Did the network create the female entrepreneurs, or did savvy female entrepreneurs just flock to rich networks?
It's a fair question, but the economists anticipated this doubt.
They did. And to settle it, researchers had to use what is essentially a mathematical time machine.
A data time machine. I love this part. Explain how they did this without getting bogged down in the academic jargon.
Okay, so they didn't just look at the 2005 data. They took microdata from 1994.
Which was the very dawn of India's economic liberalization.
Exactly. The economy was just opening up. And they used that 1994 data to lock in the cause and effect relationship for 2005.
So they looked a decade into the past to predict the future.
Yes. And what they proved is that the specific gender structure of an industry in 1994 acted exactly like a genetic blueprint.
A blueprint for the economy.
Right. It perfectly, irreversibly dictated what the commercial landscape would look like 10 years later.
So it completely destroys any argument that this was just a coincidence of timing.
The network from 94 caused the reality of 2005. Period.
So the network is unequivocally the cause of female entry into the market.
It is the single most important factor.
But before we celebrate these networks of mutual support, we have to look at the darkest piece of data in the entire study.
Yeah, this part is pretty tough to swallow.
We've been praising these female networks for helping new women survive the valley of death.
Right. They keep people alive.
But behind the warm, fuzzy facade of women helping women, the numbers reveal a terrifying structural cage.
It's crushing. Let's look at the value-added numbers.
Okay, lay it on me.
In unorganized manufacturing, the value added by each worker in a female-owned business is exactly 1/3 of the value added in a male-owned business.
1/3. They're generating a fraction of the wealth.
And even in services, it's only 1/2.
So if we connect this to the bigger picture, these networks give women an entry ticket into the economy.
Right.
But what kind of ticket is it?
It's a ticket to the bottom, The data suggests these networks might not be a ladder for upward mobility at all,
They're a structural trap.
permanently quarantining female entrepreneurs in low-margin, low-value, low-profit corners of the economy.
So you survive, yes, but you survive at the absolute bottom of the economic food chain.
You're kept alive, but you're never allowed to thrive or scale up.
Because the network itself is starved of external capital.
Exactly.
This is so heavy. And it leads us to a realization that goes far beyond India and far beyond gender.
It really goes straight into the anxieties of the modern global listener.
Because the study isn't just about a million tiny workshops in the early 2000s.
No, it's a terrifying mirror.
It's reflecting the exact same forces that are reshaping our entire global economy today.
Think about the questions we ask all the time now.
Why are the poor getting poorer globally?
Why is the middle class suddenly so terrified of artificial intelligence?
Right. Because this study proves a universal law of power.
And it's that the most scarce resource in the world isn't money.
It's not money.
No, it is nodes.
Nodes in a network.
Yes. Whoever holds the nodes in a network uses agglomeration, clustering, to build massive, uncrossable moats.
So whether that's an established supply chain in India or the massive server farms computing AI today.
It's the exact same dynamic.
So if you are outside the network, it does not matter how hard you work.
It doesn't matter how smart you are.
Or how much you hustle. You will be structurally crushed by those already inside the loop.
Capital, power, and technology exist to endlessly replicate themselves.
They just protect the nodes.
That's all they do.
Wow. Okay, we have covered an insane amount of ground today.
We really have.
We've seen how growth absolutely doesn't equal equality.
We've seen how physical roads beat out financial subsidies.
How strict labor laws actually force people into informal survival work.
And how networks can be both a vital life raft and a permanent prison.
It's a lot to process, but there's a final thought here that I think is really important.
Yeah, history is just endlessly repeating itself.
It really is.
I mean, look at it. From the tight-knit, exclusionary artisanal guilds of the Industrial Revolution.
Right.
To the highly guarded networks of female tobacco rollers in India.
To today's tech giants hoarding data and AI computing power.
The logic never changes. The strong stay strong by keeping the circle closed.
So as we pull our eyes away from those millions of tiny workshops, and we look at our own lives being rapidly reshaped by algorithms and massive capital,
You really have to ask yourself,
is our modern world just repeating this exact same cruel history, only in a much more invisible, unbreakable way?
it's a chilling question.
It really is. Something to think about next time you see a headline about the booming tech economy. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive into the hidden engines of our world. We'll catch you next time.